While Durango, located in southwest Colorado, may be mostly known for its outdoor adventure opportunities like skiing and mountain biking and hiking, I had the opportunity in November of 2024 to visit Anthony of Xylem Custom Basses and Guitars.
Hello, Josh. Welcome. Come on in.
After welcoming me into his shop, I got to not only tour and see his whole process, but see some of the most beautiful, 100% custom instruments that I have ever seen. Anthony is an absolute master craftsman and gave me an entire walkthrough of his process. After first giving me a tour of his shop,
This is the joiner. The big bandsaw right here. Cut a curve into an instrument, you do it on this saw right here. Set a neck on here like so with its back.
I got the chance to ask Anthony some questions about this amazing process. Anthony, we are at your warehouse in Durango, Colorado, correct?
Yep.
You want to tell us just who are you, what do you do, and why are we here?
Well, I am a luthier. I'm a professional luthier. I make custom guitars for a living. I do repairs as well in the Durango area and some in New Mexico. We're here today to do an interview because you've been gracious enough to come out and waste your time talking to me.
Oh, it's not a waste of time at all. No. I think your instruments are absolute works of art. Having seen them for a few years around and then getting to actually talk to you about it has been really, really cool. And I think this is the most of your finished instruments that I've ever seen in a room together.
Yes.
So I'm really excited to look at some of these. Do you want to real quick just kind of what's your kind of process as far as there's all of these different tools that are around this shop. Where do you kind of go from front to back? Like you start with a piece of wood, you go to what machine you use it, and then you're getting us all the way to here to these beautiful instruments in front of us. How do we get there?
Well, there's a lot of skipping around. It's not a very straightforward process. You'll go to one tool and then you won't use that tool for a while. Then you'll come back to it later in the process. So I'll try to give you kind of a linear version.
Sure.
The joiner is one of the. They all save you a ton of time, but the joiner is really great because it flattens everything, and everything has to be flat in some dimension or another. The wood never arrives perfectly flat, and often partway through the build process, some of it moves anyways. So the joiner basically flattens really, really long, lengthy things. I use a larger bandsaw for resawing things, basically. Well, and cutting larger pieces of wood, but resawing is when you have a very thick piece of wood and you want to thin it down a little bit. You can cut it, and you can start with a really thick piece of wood and bring it down to a thinner piece. I have a smaller bandsaw as well, where you will cut curves into instruments that way. That's how you get these nice curves along the sides of the body. I have a belt sander that does, it's just a face-up piece of sandpaper that you can flatten smaller pieces on. I also have a sort of assembly that swings over the top of the belt sander that you'll actually put the back of a neck onto so that the fretboard faces down towards the sandpaper. And you'll actually swing the whole thing like this over the sandpaper to get the radius on the top of the fretboard. You'll actually... not everybody knows, but the top of a fretboard actually has a radius on it like this. It's a little bit curved like that. I also have a drum sander, which is, it's basically a conveyor belt that is underneath a large drum that's wrapped in sandpaper. That's for flattening everything that's really wide that doesn't really fit on the joiner. You can see this really nice flame pattern on this neck here, how you've got that really, some people call it tiger maple, they call it curly maple. When you cut this with an edge tool, it will actually cut chunks out of it because the grain moves a lot. The nice thing about the drum sander is that it never does that. With this, the sandpaper never tears anything out, and you get all this fancy exotic wood that has a tendency to have crossed grain that wants to pop out when you're cutting it with edge tools, so that's really nice for that as well. I also use a spindle sander to kind of dial in all the curves on the side of the instruments. Once you cut things on the little bandsaw, you have little kerf marks, which is what a kerf is, like a little mark that's left by a saw, basically. And you put these on the spindle sander and kind of run them across the sandpaper there to flatten out all those edges and just get a really nice smooth curve on these instruments. I just have kind of a guitar repair vise on the setup bench that'll hold everything in playing position. You can actually put an instrument in the vise, it'll grab it like this and hold it in playing position, which is when it's in this position, that's when you do most of your adjustments to the string action and that sort of thing.
That's really like interesting that you do the setup in playing position, because I think that's probably you're the only person I've actually seen do that. I don't know if that's a more common thing, but every time I've even done my own guitar setup, I've always laid it on its back. Every time I've been into a guitar shop, it's laid on its back.
Yep.
But clearly, obviously we don't play our guitars on their back.
Right.
So that's a just really cool observation and approach to say I'm going to actually set up this instrument from the setting that it's going to live in.
Yeah, the reason that you do it is that in this position, the neck actually bends back just a little bit. It bends back this way, just a tiny bit. You're talking a few thousandths of an inch, but with your setup, sometimes a few thousandths of an inch makes the difference. I had one gentleman, very high-level bass player, where he was having a little trouble with his instrument once he got it at his place. So he called me and I kind of walked him through some stuff. Fortunately, he knew how to set up his own stuff quite well. And 5 thousandths made the difference for him.
Wow.
It was, there was a 5 thousandths different than in the action that we set. And he said, oh my gosh, that's perfect now. So it can matter.
Yeah.
Usually not for everybody, but some people it does. So that's kind of why you do it in playing position.
All right, so we've talked a lot about kind of the technical side of things, but I want to hear a bit about you and kind of how you got into this. I don't know if you remember, but I moved here in 2017 and actually met you for the first time then at your old shop because I needed a nut replaced on a guitar and brought it in, and you did that for me. And I remember just like seeing these absolutely insane looking instruments on the wall. So how do you end up doing this? Because this isn't a normal career field for most people, but also you've clearly been able to sustain it at least for 8, 9?
I've been
years?
doing this since 2006.
Wow.
And I started the business, officially as a business in 2008. So we're up to 16 years now.
So you've been doing it for 16 years. So to be able to sustain making custom instruments for 16 years is a pretty miraculous thing. So how does this happen? How do you end up here? How do you keep it going?
You have to really like to work a lot. It's more than you expect by a lot, and really stick with it. There were a lot of years of starving artist kind of situation. So I think I made it this far because it actually was a pretty deep passion for me. It was something that I genuinely wanted to do and was willing to do what it took to do it. Even if you do your dream job, you only do the dream part for about 30% of it. The rest of it is, yeah, exactly. It's accounting, it's marketing, it's all the stuff that nobody really wants to do, but you have to, swallow that frog and be willing to buckle down and learn how to do that. I started out because I was never really that interested in playing an instrument until my freshman year in college, when I saw some video of Primus and Les Claypool.
I was gonna guess that you were a Primus fan.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see this instrument. I finally got to build one of these, by the way. This is my first, rainbow bass. But I just never knew you could. I always liked the tone of a bass guitar. But I just never knew you could play it the way that he did, and it kind of blew my mind. So by the end of my freshman year, I was kind of like, all right, I'll get a bass, and start learning to do that. By the time I got to my senior year, I was trying to play a Primus song called John the Fisherman, which is, it's a bunch of it's 3 repeated power chords at the lowest fret, which is, I was playing this long scale 5-string bass at the time, so it was really kind of getting to my wrist. So I heard that they made such a thing as a short scale bass that was, 2 inches shorter, 3 inches shorter than the one I was playing. But I was putting myself through college, so there's no way I could drop another $2,000,
Yeah.
to get something like that. So I figured, well, I've got some woodworking experience, so I'll just try to build one. Why not? Let's try it out. 2 weeks before I graduated, I had finished the instrument, and it was playable. It was certainly not at the caliber that these are, but it was. I played it for quite a while, and I had finished school and kind of had this huge burst of energy about how cool it was to build an instrument. I wanted to do it again and again. Let's try to do this as a business, and I've been kind of doing it ever since.
Wow.
So.
To be clear, everything Anthony builds is 100% from scratch, right?
Yeah. It basically starts out as a big block of wood. Every piece of these instruments almost always starts out in some size and thickness of a rectangular piece of wood.
Anthony is not exaggerating. Every instrument that he builds starts with just one rectangular piece of wood, and he walks us through that entire process here.
Building a custom guitar is a long process, at least the way that I do it. A lot of companies do standard models, and they kind of have a lot of things predetermined already. So that saves you a ton of time if you can do that. But everything I build is fully custom. So there's the whole beginning of the process has a lot to do with just talking to the client and saying, okay, what do you want? Some clients really know everything that they want down to, the fret size, right from the beginning. Those guys are the easy ones. A lot of my clients, they have a pretty good idea of like the broad strokes that they want, but from there I have to help them out with a lot of stuff. There are certain things that they maybe haven't even considered yet. Depending on the person, I probably spend anywhere from 2 to 15 hours just kind of talking about what they want in the instrument and going through the different aspects. Once we get all that stuff done, once we kind of have their order form figured out and we've figured out everything that they want for the instrument, I'll do a full scale drawing of the instrument for them for their approval, and it'll show where most everything is placed. You'll have kind of the body shape will be cut out, drawn out for them, and the neck will be on there. They can kind of take a look, and I'll send it to them and say, okay, do you want me to change anything? They can kind of approve it and adjust things from there. After that, the first thing I usually start with is the neck. I start building the neck first because it's nice to have it sit once it's complete and let it sort of acclimate to being a neck. For a long time, everything kind of starts as a rectangular piece of wood like this in some shape or another. So once you form everything into a neck, you kind of want to let it sit, see if anything's going to move. That way you don't get a surprise later when the instrument's already almost finished. You usually just start with a blank. Usually it's, for a guitar, it's about this size, a little bit narrower. And you just kind of true everything. You make sure, all the faces are flat and square. Once you've done that, you actually put the headstock onto the neck, or at least just the kickback for it. You'll glue a piece onto the neck like here that has the kickback for it. After that, I make the truss rod. And you route a little channel down the center of the neck and put the truss rod in, install that, and kind of test it, make sure that works. After that, you slot the fretboard and get that all dimensioned, and you glue that onto the neck. Then you do the whole headstock end of things, which is multiple pieces, usually with the headstock. You'll actually glue, you can see the piece I'm talking about here, you'll actually glue 2 ears on the headstock. You glue one here and one on this side. And then you glue this front face veneer onto it here. You glue a back face veneer onto it as well. Then you cut out this whole shape. You drill the tuner holes, and you do your little inlay here. After that, your neck is pretty close to being to the point where you can carve the profile on the back. Usually I'll put a little shim on the back of the neck right here. Depending on the instrument, some instruments actually have an angle to the neck. They'll go in the body and they'll actually be at an angle like this. Some instruments, it's more straight on, as it is with this instrument. Usually with a single cut instrument like this one, they call it a single cut because it's got a single cutaway. It's only cutaway right here. Whereas this is a double cutaway. You have a cutaway here and a cutaway here. After you glue on the neck shim there, you can go ahead and carve the back of the neck. nicely, and then you're kind of done with the neck at that point. After that, you start on the bodies. Some guys will ask for something like this. It looks more like a cutting board. Obviously, with this body, you start with a lot of really tiny pieces and sweat it out really bad at the gluing process because there's, I don't know, 30 pieces in here or something like that. If you have a more simple body, you'll start with, a larger piece of wood like this, and often you'll glue a thin piece of top wood on the front like this. You'll actually take a big piece of wood and resaw it like this. You get a really thin piece, and you'll usually glue two of them together, and then you'll glue those thin pieces onto the face of the body. As you can see here, we got a different wood on the face here than the core of the body here. After you have, once you've glued the top wood onto the body, then the way I do it is I normally route all the cavities in the body at that point. And then you get to finally cut out the shape of the body, which is always kind of a fun, triumphant point in the build process. You're not working with just a plain rectangle, and actually get to see some of your progress at that point. From there, you start the carving, which, it involves cutting all these contours on the body. Usually you'll have a really deep belly cut right here to try to make the body a little bit more comfortable for you. You have a deep arm bevel right here so that it's comfortable to play like so. You get to rest your arm on there. After you're done with the carving, generally then you'll glue the neck into the neck pocket. If you're making the instrument that way, sometimes I get requests for a neck through instrument, which is where the neck is actually extra long. It actually goes all the way through the body. So the neck will actually come down to more like here, and you'll glue the wings onto the body on either side. Or alternatively, if you're not making a set neck, which is what these guys are, where you just glue the neck into the body, it'll be a bolt-on instead, and you won't actually have to glue the neck in. You just have to drill holes in the back and install the bolts and everything. From there are all kinds of little miscellaneous things that you do to it. You make sure that things fit right. Usually at that point, I'll install a pick guard. If it's an instrument that somebody wanted a pick guard, you can see the outline for the pick guard on this instrument in white here. You kind of test fit things and make sure it's all going to go together right. After that, you get the neck ready. You check the neck one final time and make sure it is flat and true to about 1/1000th of an inch before you put the frets in, because the fretboard is so much of the instrument. It is extremely important that the frets get put in well, the fretboard is nice and true, the top of the frets are nice and true to about 1/1000th of an inch. That will help you put the action exactly where you want it. You won't get any buzz or anything like that if you've done that right. After that, there's a whole finish sanding process, which usually takes a lot longer than you usually plan for most of the time. You get out all the tiny scratches, you go through many different grits of sandpaper, and then you finally get to put finish on at that point. And the way that I do it is with Danish oil, which is just kind of a rubbed hand finish. I have a particular method that I use to do that. I usually do a few different coats and wet sand in between the coats. And then after that, you're kind of done. You get to assemble the bass, you put the pickups together, you put the strings on, do your final adjustments, work out any sort of bugs that you might have, come across at the end, and then you get to send it off on its way home, which is always, and then you get to build another one after that, which is always very fun. So.
And these finished projects are an absolute sight to behold.
So this instrument is named Mako Sika, which is Badlands. So this instrument is a 4-string bass. It has a 34-inch scale. The core of the body right here is black walnut. There's a layer of mahogany here, and then this is a layer of spalted tamarind on the top. Kind of a repeat of that on the back here, except for we have a central piece of flamed maple right here and 2 stripes of Bacote. The neck is also flamed maple with some more Bacote stripes here. And the pickups are made of black and white ebony in the center here with Bacote borders, which is the same as the fretboard. We got another long strip of black and white ebony there. This is a Hipshot A-style bridge with Hipshot ultralight tuners. I always like those. They are very high quality, really good stuff. These are knobs that were made for me by David King from dknob.com. One of the cooler things about this instrument is the pickups are Herrick pickups, and they are the 1 humbucker per string style pickups. What's extra cool about those pickups is that they pair with a preamp where if you turn these knobs, they almost sound like a wah pedal. So they're very unique sounding pickups on this instrument here. So this is the Abraxas bass, kind of half of a bass and half of a guitar. This lowest string here is tuned to 1/2 step up from the low B on a 6-string bass or a 5-string bass, and the highest string is tuned 1/2 step up from the high B on 1/2 step down from the high B on a guitar. So it's kind of half a guitar and half a bass. We got 8 strings here. It's also a fanned fret or multi-scale instrument. As you can see, the frets kind of fan out like this. Each string has its own scale length. They start at 34 inches down at the bass end up to 30 inches at the treble end here. Same Hipshot hardware on this one as well. These are individual Hipshot bridges along with 2 Hipshot bass tuners along with Hipshot guitar tuners. The neck pickup is a bare knuckle pickup. The middle and the bridge pickup are Lundgren pickups. This instrument has got volume and master volume here, master tone here, and each one of these switches is for each of the pickups. This one's just an on-off for this single coil bare knuckle pickup. And these switches here are 3-way. This is humbucker mode. There's your single coil mode for the, splitting the humbucker into a single coil, and this is just off. So you can play these pickups in basically any sort of combination with each other. You have a wide range of tones with this instrument. The fretboard on this one is bloodwood. The top wood here is cocobolo. And if you can see it, there's a very thin black pinstripe veneer right there. That's just a dyed black piece of anagire, I think you pronounce it. The core of the body on this one is babinga. And on the back, there's another figured piece of babinga right here. The core of the neck on this instrument is wenge in the center, and the 2 outer pieces here are canary wood. This instrument here is the Mithra bass. Just more of a standard 4-string. This one has a 33-inch scale, so it's a little bit shorter than that other 4-string over there. We've got a wenge top here with a layer of mahogany underneath, and then a white pinstripe. This is just a piece of very thin maple right there, with the rest of the core of the body also being mahogany. The fretboard on this instrument is Wenge, and the neck is a piece of quarter sawn rock maple. This instrument also has a hip shot bridge and tuners. I generally go for those unless the client has a request for some other sort of hardware on their instrument, just because they're really high quality and really rock solid. This instrument has a P-bass configuration. We've got the split coil pickup in the neck position, a little bit of an angle to that bridge position, single coil. When you angle it like that, you get a little bit more of a bassy tone from the bass side of the strings, and a little bit more trebly tone from the treble side of the strings. There's a Seymour Duncan preamp in this instrument as well. You've got your volume, your blend here. You've got a mid knob here, treble and bass on this one, so you can really dial in your tone with this instrument. And this last instrument here is the Tatanka bass, which means buffalo. This instrument is made, obviously, it's a very similar to Les Claypool's Rainbow bass. The woods in it are this brown wood is black walnut, the orange stuff is mahogany, the purple is purple heart, and the white is flamed maple. The fretboard on this instrument, the black stuff, is ebony, and you've got more strips of purple heart here, along with strip of maple on either side. And this little bottom piece here is Cocobolo, as is the pickup cover right here. The bridge is a strip of ebony, purple heart, and mahogany. And this instrument has a Delano pickup in it. You'll see those Delano pickups that have that unique oval shape on a fair amount of instruments these days. It also has an Audir preamp in it. And this one is volume, high mid, low mid, treble and bass controls on this instrument as well. And this is a fretless instrument. These may look like frets, but they're actually just fret markers so that you know where you need to hit the frets to play in tune on this instrument.
After getting the chance to see some of these amazing custom instruments up close, I had the opportunity to ask Anthony a few questions about his design process and his unique art style.
Every one of your instruments I've seen, I feel like has your signature is on it, regardless of if your signature is actually on it. I mean, you have your logo on the headstock, but I don't need to see the headstock to know that you made these. And any that I've seen even before now and in the last few years, it's very quickly, oh, is this a Xylem bass? Because you have this very explicit style in the way that you build guitars, which I think is really cool, especially, I mean, thinking, I might get flack for saying this, but you can look at like a PRS Silver Sky. Look, it's a Stratocaster.
Yeah, it's a Stratocaster. Yeah.
It's a Stratocaster.
Yes, there are many of those.
And none of these I can even look at and say this looks like anything except maybe something that Prince had custom made at some point. So where does your inspiration for this style come? And where's kind of the line between someone has asked me for a guitar that looks like this, but this is kind of like my art style, or is it more of people see your art style and are like, I just want you to do what you're doing and give me maybe this aspect of the instrument?
Mm-hmm. Well, first I'll say, let's not cast any shade on Stratocasters. Leo Fender got those super right. It's actually quite difficult to improve on that in many ways. I'd say he got 80-90% of everything just right on those instruments. So all you Strat fans out there, we're not we're not insulting you. I got some of my inspiration especially in the beginning, as it will be obvious to anyone that knows his work. I got it from Carl Thompson. He was the guy that made some of Les Claypool's first instruments. He's made the Rainbow bass is extremely famous. Anybody that's heard of either Les Claypool or Carl Thompson will definitely know that's kind of where he started out. And he does all these, these crazy looking shapes. I mean, this is my own. This shape right here is my own.
Okay.
But it's a reverse of something that's very similar to a Carl Thompson shape. This right here is a Carl Thompson shape right here. This one on this horn here. So that's where a lot of my initial inspiration came from. I just was so enamored with those instruments, and I always wanted to build one when I was daydreaming about that first bass. So from there, I've kind of tried to move out and move away from that a little bit and do some of my own, expand on that a little bit and kind of figure out some of my own stuff. I've got a few horn designs that are definitely I've not seen out there before, including this one right here. And as far as what clients come to me with and say, I want this, I want that, this sort of shape, I will try to do exactly what they want, more or less every single time, as long as it will work in reality. If they bring me something where I say, that instrument will never balance in 1,000 years if we make it that way, I'll still make it for them as long as they're okay with that, as long as they know that it's gonna neck dive when it's on a shoulder strap, or you can't actually, like with a flying V, you can't really sit with it on your leg. You have to have a strap with that, and they usually neck dive. But again, I will try to nail as close to what their vision is as possible. And one of the things that I really liked about making that first instrument for myself was that I could select everything that I wanted about it. There's only so much you can find out there in the factory-made instruments, and I wanted to sort of provide that for other people and say, all right, here's an opportunity to make the instrument that does not exist, that is in your dreams, kind of thing. And I'll try to make it as functional and playable as possible, while also making it very pleasing to the eye.
What's the timeline usually look like from start to finish?
It really depends on the instrument. Some of them, this is a relatively simple instrument right here. This is maybe a 250, 300 hour instrument.
Okay. Wow.
This instrument here, obviously quite a lot went into this one.
Yeah.
You got the fanned frets on it. It's an 8-string. It tunes down to the low B of a 6-string bass up to the high B of a guitar. This is probably a 450 hour instrument. Wow. So it very much depends on the design and how much of what they've asked me to do is new to me. This is my second fan fret instrument that I built, so that always takes a little bit longer, and you always have to be a bit more careful, going into it and plan a little bit more. And once you've had experience, you know what the pitfalls are, you know what to avoid, and how to not screw up quite so easily when you make them.
There's something to how genuine these are in the fact that it takes this long for you to produce it, that it's not made in a machine, it's not something that is copy and pasted. You have put the time and the effort and the sheer expertise that it takes to do all of this into an instrument that I think makes it all the more special, and to know that no one else will ever have what you're playing. Is really exciting and personal. I think every musician knows that even if it is an instrument that has been made in bulk, it's never going to be yours. And it's like, this is so explicitly your instrument. That's a really special thing to get to invest in, especially as a music lover or a musician or any part of that process. That's really exciting.
Yeah, it does add a little bit of magic to it, that it is your, one of a kind. No one's, I have made a few copies, quote unquote, of some of my instruments. Some of them are very popular. There's one called the Xylem bass. It's basically all ebony on front. It's got a ball scroll like this one does. I've made a few like that, but they always, even if I made an exact copy, it's it's got its own character, you
Yeah.
know, from the other one, because it's so much handmade. It's a different time in my life that I've been making it, you know, that sort of thing. So, yes, I put quite a bit of my life force into these instruments.
Yeah. All right. Well, these are all obviously beautiful visual works of art, and we can talk about them all we want. But I think what I'd really love to hear is how some of these sound. So I've heard down the grapevine that you've got some bass chops. Would you be up for playing a few of these for us?
Yes, absolutely. I got to warn you, though, I'm very much out of practice, so I'll do my best. I would recommend that anybody that really wants to do a deep dive into how they sound, go on my website. There are professional bass players and guitar players on there that can do far better than I can.
All right.
But I will do the best that I can for you today.
And what is your website?
My website is xylemguitars.com, XYLEM guitars.com.
Awesome.
Yeah. See, there was some good stuff in there for sure.
good.
Man, you can really see that string vibrate.
Yeah, that's
that
just
low string
crazy.
vibrate in that video.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. It was such a privilege to go to Anthony's shop and check out all of these amazing guitars and to see his process behind making these. If you liked this video, please consider becoming a patron. Head to patreon.com/raggedoak. All of that helps so much. And there is a free tier where you still get a bunch of awesome benefits. So even if you don't want to be a paid patron, please consider joining the community just to get access to a lot of the stuff that I make for you guys. And it's a great way for me to connect with you as my audience. But once again, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you with the next one.